Can you imagine losing everything you've worked for in just one night? That's exactly where Landman Season 2 is about to push its characters and us, the viewers, right to the edge. Episode 10 doesn't just promise tension, it threatens to shatter every alliance, every dream, and every fragile sense of control that's been carefully built over the season. If you thought Cooper, Tommy, and the rest were in safe waters before, think again. This finale is a ticking bomb, and one misstep could ignite chaos that none of them can survive. The episode opens in a storm of energy, an energy that feels like it's about to explode at any second. The offshore drilling project, which has been simmering with risk and tension, now teeters on the edge of total success or catastrophic failure. Cooper, who has been steadily rising as a leader this season, steps onto the platform with a confidence that's almost frightening. He's no longer the hesitant figure we saw months ago. Now every decision he makes carries the weight of consequences that could ripple through everyone's lives. And yet, as he takes command, the scene isn't triumphant. It's electric with uncertainty. The crew follows his lead, but the question lingers, is loyalty enough when the stakes are this high, or is someone about to crack under pressure? Meanwhile, Tommy is navigating his own private storm. His firing from Mtex looms over him like a shadow he can't shake. Every conversation, every glance from Cammy and Angela carries the unspoken tension of what's about to unravel. Cammy's decision to remove him from the project was calculated yet personal, and it exposes a fracture not just in their professional dynamic, but in the emotional undercurrents that have defined the show. Tommy's mind races with the knowledge that his family's lifestyle, long funded by Mtex, will collapse without his steady income. Angela and Annesley, oblivious to the looming disaster, continue their comfortable routines, blissfully unaware of the storm about to crash into their world. How long can comfort shield them from reality before everything comes crashing down? Rebecca and Charlie's storyline twists into new territory as well. After months of tension, her confession to him, admitting loneliness, admitting love, feels like a fragile bridge between two people teetering on opposite edges of their emotions. But it's messy, raw, and unpolished. Is this genuine love or just desperation disguised as passion? The episode doesn't give us the comfort of easy answers. Instead, it asks us to grapple with the uncomfortable reality that sometimes relationships are about timing, sometimes about impulse, and sometimes about facing the truth that staying together might not solve anything. Can a connection built in chaos ever survive when the calm arrives? Back on the platform, the pressure of the project is a silent character in itself. Every drill, every calculation, every step of progress feels like walking on a knife's edge. Nate and Tommy's coordination is meticulous, but there's no room for error. And as the equipment is prepped for launch, the tension is palpable. The crew knows this isn't just another day, it's a defining moment. And yet there's an undercurrent of foreboding. A storm might not just be metaphorical. When danger looms over a project this massive, when stakes are this high, even a small mistake could trigger a cascade of disaster. Who will be left standing when the dust settles, and who will be lost to the chaos? And then there's the quieter, almost haunting subplots that sneak in between the high-stakes drama. TL's hydrotherapy sessions with Cheyenne, revealing her real name, Penny, and glimpses of dreams and vulnerability, offer a temporary reprieve from the relentless tension. But even these tender moments are underscored with unease. In the context of a finale, they feel like fragile bubbles about to be burst, making the audience wonder, can warmth and softness survive when everything else is spiraling out of control? Finally, we circle back to Cammy. She embodies the thrill of risk, the unshakable belief that adrenaline and ambition outweigh caution and restraint. Her confrontation with Tommy crystallizes this tension perfectly. Tommy's careful approach, meant to safeguard the project, now conflicts violently with Cammy's vision. And when she fires him, it's not just a job lost, it's a power shift, a statement that nothing, not even loyalty or friendship, will stand in the way of her ambitions. The implications ripple through the entire cast. Cooper, Rebecca, Charlie, and even Angela and Annesley, no one's position is safe anymore. As the episode builds toward its climax, the question isn't just what will happen next, but what line will be crossed that changes everything forever. Will Cooper's rise lead him to triumph or tragedy? Will Tommy's absence implode the delicate balance of family, business, and ambition? And as Cammy asserts control, is she stepping into... As the episode progresses, the tension shifts back to the personal stakes of the characters, and it hits harder than ever. Cooper's confidence on the platform is met with the raw reality of leadership. Every decision has consequences. Every choice can cost someone dearly. The crew begins to feel the pressure themselves, and cracks start to appear, not just in their skill, but in their trust. Subtle gestures, sharp glances, hushed arguments behind closed doors, it's all happening in the background, and the episode doesn't let us forget that the calmest exterior often hides the storm within. Cooper has claimed authority, but can anyone really maintain that level of control when unforeseen chaos lurks just out of sight? The sense of inevitability hangs over every scene, as though the platform itself is a ticking time bomb, and we're just waiting for the fuse to reach the end. Meanwhile, the fallout from Cammy's decision to fire Tommy starts echoing across every corner of the story. Angela and Annesley are still insulated by wealth and influence, but cracks begin to appear in their bubble. The lifestyle they've enjoyed, funded entirely by Tommy's work at Mtex, is suddenly precarious. The episode masterfully shows us how fragile privilege can be, how quickly it can crumble when the foundation beneath it is removed. Angela's protective nature is admirable, yet it's also a symptom of denial. She shields Annesley, covers up problems, and manipulates situations to maintain comfort, but at what cost? Every act of control comes with unintended consequences, and as the audience, we can feel the weight of the looming fallout. Will her attempts to preserve normalcy actually make the inevitable collapse worse? The tension isn't confined to the main players either. Rebecca and Charlie continue to navigate their fragile connection, and every interaction feels like walking on glass. Her admission of love in the previous episode has not resolved their dynamic. It has made it more volatile. Charlie is leaving for 6 months at sea, and the thought of separation injects a raw vulnerability into their interactions. Every moment of intimacy is now tinged with the knowledge that absence and time will test the bonds they've barely begun to form. The episode brilliantly balances these personal stakes with the larger, more explosive events, constantly reminding viewers that love and ambition exist in the same space and neither is safe from chaos. Can a relationship survive when the world around it is falling apart? Back at the cheerleading subplot, Annesley's storyline continues to highlight a contrast between the mundane and the catastrophic. The tension with Pagan escalates quickly, and while it might seem like a small distraction compared to offshore drilling disasters or corporate battles, it's emblematic of the show's sharp attention to human conflict. Annesley's frustrations, tears, and reliance on Angela for resolution mirror larger patterns we see elsewhere. People avoiding confrontation, seeking control, and attempting to fix problems with force or money rather than facing discomfort. The show subtly critiques this tendency, and we're left wondering what happens when the real world demands confrontation instead of control. How long can the bubble hold before it bursts? Finally, the most shocking moments start to build in the latter half of Section 2. Cooper's instincts, already established as decisive and intense, take a darker turn when a confrontation with a racist customer escalates into violence. What begins as protective action quickly spirals out of control, raising questions about the fine line between heroism and criminality. Cooper's moral compass has always been complex, but in this moment, it becomes dangerously blurred. The audience is left in suspense. Has Cooper acted in self-defense, or has he crossed a threshold from which he cannot return? And if he can't return, what does that mean for everything he's built and everyone who depends on him? By the time Section 2 closes, the episode has successfully ratcheted tension on all fronts. Professional ambition, romantic instability, family dynamics, and personal morality all collide. It leaves the viewer with an urgent question. When the storm hits, which of these characters will survive and which will be irreparably broken? If Section 2 tightened the screws, Section 3 twists them until they almost snap. The official trailer makes one thing painfully clear. Consequences are no longer hypothetical. They are here, and they are brutal. Cooper's violent outburst is not brushed aside or romanticized. Instead, we see flashing lights, whispered conversations, and the unmistakable weight of legal trouble closing in. The question is no longer whether he protected Ariana. The question is whether he destroyed his own future in the process. And honestly, that's what makes it tragic. Cooper has been positioned all season as the one with the brightest potential, the one who might rise above the chaos of oil, ego, and greed. But one moment of rage can undo years of discipline. One mistake can rewrite an entire destiny. So now we have to ask ourselves, is this the beginning of Cooper's downfall, or the fire that forges him into something even stronger? At Mtex, the power vacuum left by Tommy's firing becomes impossible to ignore. Cammy may project confidence, but the trailer subtly reveals cracks in her authority. Meetings feel colder, the room doesn't respond the same way. There's hesitation where there used to be unity. And that offshore project, the one she pushed forward with adrenaline instead of caution, now feels heavier than ever. The visuals suggest technical complications, tension among the crew, and the kind of silence that only exists when people are afraid to say what they're really thinking. Cammy wanted boldness, she wanted momentum, but momentum without stability can quickly turn into disaster. And if the project falters, if something goes wrong at sea, there won't be anyone left to blame but her. Was firing Tommy a power move or the biggest mistake of her career? Tommy, meanwhile, enters a different kind of battle. The trailer hints at quiet scenes, him sitting alone, conversations at home, charged with unspoken resentment. Losing his job isn't just a professional setback, it's an identity crisis. For a man who built his worth around competence and responsibility, being cast aside hits deeper than pride. And we cannot ignore the tension brewing with Angela. She has always loved comfort. She has always loved stability. And yes, she loves Tommy, but stability might matter more. The subtle looks, the distance in their conversations, the financial anxiety creeping into their reality, it all suggests that this marriage is about to face its most brutal test yet. When the money dries up and the control slips away, will Angela stand by him, or will she decide she deserves more? Rebecca and Charlie's arc continues to simmer in the background, but the trailer makes it clear that emotional distance is about to become physical distance. 6 months offshore is not just time apart, it's a stress test. Rebecca's confession of love felt impulsive, raw, maybe even desperate. But love spoken under pressure doesn't always survive real-world separation. And Charlie, practical and grounded, knows that reality will not bend for romance. Their scenes in the trailer carry a sense of unfinished business, like something important has been left unsaid. Are they holding on to each other because it's real, or because letting go would force them to face uncomfortable truths about themselves? Then there's TL and Cheyenne, Penny, whose softer storyline suddenly feels more significant. The trailer shows glimpses of their continued connection, and what once seemed like a quiet side plot now feels symbolic. TL represents wisdom, patience, and experience. In a season obsessed with risk and ambition, his slower pace feels almost rebellious. But even these scenes carry tension now, because when a finale approaches, no storyline is safe. The show has a pattern of using calm moments to set up devastating turns, and the more peaceful their conversations appear, the more nervous we should be. Is this tranquility genuine, or simply the silence before something shattering? As Section 3 closes, the threads begin to intertwine more tightly. Cooper's legal jeopardy, Tommy's professional exile, Cammy's risky leadership, Angela's fragile loyalty, and the offshore project's looming uncertainty all move toward collision. The trailer doesn't scream its intentions, it whispers them. And somehow, that's even more unsettling, because when chaos arrives quietly, it usually hits harder than anyone expects. So here's the real question: when everything finally collides in episode 10, who will still be standing when the dust settles? Now let's talk about escalation, because if there is one word that defines what the sneak peek suggests, it's escalation. Every storyline that has been simmering all season is about to boil over, and the show doesn't seem interested in holding back anymore. The offshore drilling platform becomes the emotional and physical centerpiece of the finale. The trailer emphasizes harsh winds, sharp exchanges, and a level of tension that feels suffocating. Equipment doesn't always cooperate, timelines tighten, pressure builds, and when you're dealing with oil, machinery, and human ego all at once, the margin for error is razor thin. Nate looks concerned. The crew exchanges uncertain glances, and suddenly Tommy's absence feels enormous. Because love him or criticize him, Tommy understood caution, he understood balance, and now, without him there to stabilize the risk, the operation feels exposed. If something catastrophic happens out there, it won't just cost money, it could cost lives. Cammy's belief in adrenaline as a guiding principle may finally face its ultimate test. The sneak peek frames her as unwavering, almost defiant in the face of doubt. But